Today, we will be hearing about demonstrating tricot analysis in R-Instat from Dr. Lily Clements, and she is a data scientist and educator at IDEMS International, based in the UK. She works at the intersection of data tools, education, and social impact, creating open source software and accessible resources that make data skills easier to understand, teach, and use responsibly in the real world. And today, Lily will present information pertinent to the Thousand Farms community and will demonstrate how to use R-Instat, which is a user-friendly R-based statistical software for tricot data analysis. So I will pass the floor to you now, Lily. I will unshare and you can share your screen and begin.
I've sent a request to share my screen.
Okay, I just confirmed it, so.
Maybe I now have to, yes, yeah. I'm just going to share my screen because at one point I'm going to switch over to demonstration. But anyway, yes, no, thank you for the introduction, Rachel. Today I'll talk about demonstrating tricot analysis in R-Instat. So I thought I'll just start with the kind of current state, and that's I really like R. I'm an R user, I'm an R fan, I'm an avid, I enjoy R. But R can be quite tricky to learn. And particularly if you're someone that's having to or wants to be able to analyze your data, but you don't understand R or you don't know that language, then it can put you in a difficult state. So say you're in a workshop and you're not trained in statistics, but you want to kind of really harness that power, you could come up against it. And that can then mean that you shift your focus on that syntax rather than on those insights that you get yourself. This can then create this barrier to actually getting meaningful analyses, or even worse, could mean that you do the wrong analyses and get incorrect conclusions. And so let me introduce R-Instat, which R-Instat is a user-friendly front end to R. It's 10 years old this year, so it's been going for a little while. Oh, let me just move that bar. There we go. The idea behind it is it's a point and click front end that uses the power of R in the background to do your analyses. It's been designed for data analysis and for teaching. It's been designed by educators such as Roger and David, who are in this call at the moment. And the big idea is that it's there to kind of support good statistical practice. And a really key point as well is kind of handling multi-level data, which is something that's increasingly common these days and incredibly common with tricot data. I will give a demonstration of R-Instat very shortly just to show what I mean by this thing that I'm talking about. But another really key part of R-Instat is that there's these tailored menus. So while it's been built as a kind of general statistics package, and you can do your general statistics in it, there's also the option in there that there can be tailored menus to guide you through analyses that are related to a kind of specialized workflow. So an example of this is our climatic menu. This is a very developed example. And in our climatic menu, well, climatic data follows a particular structure, which then means you can go through just the climatic menu and do your analyses that fits that structure of your data. And finally, it's open source and free, and we develop it on GitHub. And I've put in there a link to where you can find it, and there's also a lot of tools online. There's a eCampus and things with on it tutorials, which are getting more and more developed every day. And so why R-Instat and tricot? So I guess tricot analysis, tricot data has this very specific structured format. So the kind of your rankings data, and in R-Instat, as I said, we can build menus that are tailored to handle this specific structured format and can really guide the user through their analysis. On top of that, tricot data is multi-level. You've got your farmer level, you've got your plot level, you know, your variety level. And because of this multi-level by nature, that kind of can add in an extra layer of complexity, which R-Instat is built to handle. And finally, kind of this statistically challenging analyses. A lot of partners are not experts in statistics, but they want to use that power of R. Cowie, who is in this call as well, hi Cowie, has written these absolutely incredible packages to help us with analyzing our tricot data. And that's really useful and really great, but the issue can be if you're not as kind of, if you're an expert in something else, if you're an expert in tricots or an expert in your area, but not in statistics as such, then you can then struggle to actually get that analysis. And so it's through this that we've kind of built this front end. And so I'll lead on to the demonstration. I just created slides for the demonstration just in case, for any reason, I couldn't show it. But here is our Instat. On the right-hand side, we have something called the output window. And in here is where we'll get our tables, our graphs, our output. We can also show our commands in there and comments in there, which I usually have on because I like R. But by default, we tend to try and have that off because we don't want to be overwhelming. And then on the left-hand side, we have our data view. And so it's in here that we'll see our data, and the idea there is that it follows this spreadsheet structure, or is familiar to users to look a bit like your classical spreadsheet software like Excel. And I'll give an example in there in a second. I just first want to touch on these menus at the top. And so we've got our kind of core menus, this file, which is about importing your data from different locations. You can import it from your own kind of computer, from online platforms like ClimMob, or from our package libraries as well, which I'll demonstrate very shortly. We've got this very extensive prepare menu, which is for like cleaning, organizing your data, transforming your data. So a lot of this is to really help you get your data into that right shape, which I think that the term is that this is kind of 80% of your statistical analysis should be spent cleaning and preparing your data, but often this is very overlooked. And then in describe, where you can do graphs and tables to really look at your data and explore it. And finally, modeling for that modeling side. And then we have these tailored menus. So I'm just going to, under view, I'm going to just hide two of our tailored menus because we don't need them at the moment. And I'll just show the climatic tailored menu, which is where we have our climatic analyses. As I say, this one's one that's been very, has been worked on and is very kind of comprehensive and works around that climatic data shape. And then the menu, the tricot menu, which is what we've been working on since around January with this work on, okay, how can we take these packages that Cowie's written and put them into a front end that can be easy and you can click through it and can guide the user through the analysis. So I'll give a little example. We do have a lot of tutorials online where it will go through these a lot slower and in more depth. But for the interest of time, I might have to be a little bit quicker than I would want to be. But if I go to import from library, sorry about that, I just clicked something. Then here we can see all of our lots of different packages that I have installed on my computer and also packages that come through with our Instat. And I'll go down to Cowie's Gosset package and I'll import his cassava data. I can also click on our help where I'll be able to see the documentation explaining this data, which presumably Cowie wrote. And we can see that it's for consumer testing in Cameroon and Nigeria. Yeah, so I'll import this and we'll use this data to run through a kind of example of tricot analysis. So I can see my data, and this is exactly the same data as we can get in R. And I'm just going to right click and I'll convert my country to be a factor, because country should be a factor, as it should just have those two levels. And we can check that we have just those two levels if I go under prepare, factor, levels, labels. I can just check that, and exactly as we expect, Nigeria has 400 rows and Cameroon has, sorry, Nigeria has 600 rows and Cameroon has 400 rows, just as we expect from what we saw from the documentation. And then we can obviously, as I say, the prepare menu is very extensive. So we've got a lot of kind of documentation on different things in the prepare menu, but for the interest of time, I'll just assume for once that the data is clean and tidy. But under ID, we have for Nigeria, that is either OSIN or it's Benue. I'm not sure how we pronounce it, I'm sorry. But we have for Nigeria that it's one of those two, or for Cameroon, it's just a number. So what I can do, and I'm just clicking this to get that last dialogue, is I can input ID, I can split by this hyphen, and then I can get a new column or two new columns. And on the left-hand side of my new column, it will tell me what that first term is before the hyphen. So Byonyu or neither or OSIN. And on the right-hand side, we can get that kind of ID number. I'm just going to convert that to a factor. And I'm going to give you an example in a second of using tricot. And for this example, I would like to just look at this OSIN data. So we're just going to focus on, I think it's 300 rows of OSIN. And so if I just right click, I can go into our filter. And I can define a new filter and split by, and then I can see here my different levels. And as we see, we've got OSIN and Byonyu, and then this kind of these numbers, which were all part of that other one, which we're not bothered about at the moment. And so I'll add in OSIN, I'll return, and I'm going to apply it as a subset. If I apply it as a filter, it will apply temporarily to my data here. By applying it as a subset, it's going to be a completely new data frame. And so I'm going to call it cassava OSIN. I'll click on OK, and this will create for me a new data frame which just filters to our data, which is OSIN. And here we can see that it's cassava OSIN. We could see at the bottom that we have just 300 rows now, whereas before we had 1,000 rows. And now we can start and dig into our tricot analysis. So we have these tailored menus for kind of our specific data types. And we can follow in these a workflow that's designed for this data type. And as I said, the most developed of these is climatic. That's been having works for 10 years. But in this project, we started on this tricot menu. And a lot of the kind of power of this menu comes from this define, which I'll get to very shortly. Firstly, we have that we can import directly from ClimMob in. You just have to give your key, and then you can click on Find Forms, and you can just import in your data from ClimMob. We then have bits on examining and tidying your data, which have just taken different options which can also be found in the Prepare menu, and we've just popped them in here. And then we have two different ways that you can define. And this defining is the defining feature of this tailored menu, because this is where you say to you tell R-Instat here what your data is. You say to it, okay, I'm going to define that this here is my variety. I'm going to define that this here is my trait. And then R-Instat can help guide you through the analysis, knowing that that's what is your variety and that's your trait and so forth. But we're also going to go one further. We're going to transform it as well. And so I'll transform it and then I'll explain. So in transform, I can just pop in my data and I'll press on check. And what this is going to do is it's going to create for us 3 different data frames. And if I click on options, then I have all these different options where I can, specify my variety variables and things. But for the interest of time, again, we've got a lot of resources on this. I'll just press on OK. And what this is going to do is this is going to create for us 3 new data frames, where, well, 2 new data frames and keep our first data frame as it was, where we have the data at different levels. Sorry about that. Let me reopen that up. Sometimes it has a tendency to do that. There we go. So in our output window, we've just got this information telling us that things have been defined. It's just letting us know in the output window that, for cassava osen, it's defined the ID column to be the ID. It's telling us in our new cassava osen by plot variety, it's defined the variety to be variety. So perhaps I'll start by showing that. So what we've got here is this is one of the new data frames that have just been made through that dialogue, where it's gone, okay, here's your variety level data. And this data here is important for, this here is where you might have in it your, I think it's pronounced BLUPS, but your BLUPS data, which I hadn't come across before, but Cowie had mentioned, but stuff about like your genotype information, and information on your varieties in case you wanted to look at, how does your variety change, impact your traits, and how they're ranked and scored. Really digging into that kind of why. And in here, we have a different level of our plot level. So here, every row is the ID and variety level. And so we can see then that it should be 3 times longer because every row has been repeated for every variety. And we can just easily see how things have been scored and ranked. And so we like to encourage analysts to kind of recognize the simple tasks that start their analyses. We distinguish this through our kind of exploratory, our descriptive, and modeling steps. But the data is simpler when you recognize that they're actually from different trials. We have our variety level data, we have our plot level data, and then we have our ID level data, which is more like our survey of what country are they from, what's their gender, and even questions like what's their reason for liking it, their reason for disliking it. I'll give just one example of a describe and one example of a modeling menu, just because of time, I'm afraid. But under describe, if we look at the traits dialog, then in here we can, and in the define, we can also see that for our plot, that lots of things have been defined as our traits. Our variety's been defined as our variety, as we would like. And our traits have been defined to be the color, the smoothness, the moldability, all of these ones here, which now have been elongated slightly. Anyway, so in here, I'll put in here my plot level data, and the only options it gives me in traits are the variables that it knows are traits. In here, we only have these ones that have been defined as a trait, are the only variables that it's offering me to look at as trait data. And this is because of that defining that we've done, and because of that specific structure that this data follows. And so I can look, I'll look at overall, and I can look at a matrix to check that the connectivity is there, which just means to check that the trial is, that everything's been randomized correctly, and we can see that it has been. We can get our adjacency matrix. I mean, this is all code that Cowie's written. We've just put a front end to it. Sorry, I can't scroll up and down because I've got my face in the way. There we go. Here, and okay, the network's strongly connected, and this is all the stuff that Cowie's done the real kind of work here. We've just put a front end to it. And And similarly, I can do some modeling. So we have lots of different modeling options, but I could model the traits that come into model here are all my traits that sorry, the options that come into model are all my traits. So I'll just put in overall taste color for now. And under model options, we have lots of different options relating to, we try and keep the dialogue simple and we keep the kind of sub-dialogues a bit more complicated for those more advanced options. And under display options, we've got loads of different things that you might want to display. You might want your ANOVA, you might want deviance, and we've got tooltips that show up just to help explain what these all are. Or under graphics, you might want to have a plot. I'll just ask for a summary for now because again, as I've said, I am a little stretched for time. And then on our side window, we get our plot. We get our models that we fitted to each of them. We get our overall model, our taste model, and so forth, our color, and we get the summary of them just as we asked. If I just switch back, sorry, to the slides, then just to finish, I just wanted to go through, okay, what's happened? So we've just come to the end of this project, and this talk, I guess, is in a way us wrapping up this project. And the creation of this menu has happened throughout this project, and it's enabled us to do a number of different activities, including creating this tailored menu. There is a sprint, we have lots of different reports, but there is a sprint report which articulates how we could use our partners in Kenya and in Ghana and use this as capacity building and generally involving them in what we are able to do. We also have our workshop report. So one main aim of this was to deliver a kind of workshop on the menu, and this has been outlined in this workshop report. And additionally, the feedback that we got through that is in that report. And then because it's an open source development, as I said at the start, R-Instat is open source, it's free, and we do it on GitHub. This now means that tricots is now a part of R-Instat. And so as a result, this development is part of that open development process of R-Instat's open source project. And so we got issues relating to that, such as 9869, which is a big issue with lots and lots of checkboxes of various things that came out of the workshop. And then, okay, so what's next for this menu? Well, so we've got this building the tricot menu report, which goes through the steps that we did and the reasons behind the menu looking how it does, but also has on it kind of potential next steps for improving that functionality. One of these is adding in reporting tools, which was a request out of the workshop, which we've worked on, which is very, very close to getting there, and is looking, is very exciting. But also other ideas like improving the system in handling multiple missing values, which is a very common situation to have in your tricot data. What's next is also another report on kind of portable dialogues. So the kind of a more ambitious project is that the technology behind R-Instat is now not the ideal long-term technology stack. And so this report describes how a kind of small investigation that we did throughout the tricots project and throughout this project has demonstrated that it could be feasible and it would be feasible that we could move out of this technology stack into a multi-platform web-enabled version. And that could then give the potential to embed in other systems such as ClinMob, so that you wouldn't even need to leave ClinMob to go to R-Instat for this menu. And then the final report is really the FAIR report, which is the really important first step to giving stakeholder control-led work. And so this step sets out a kind of vision for farmer organizations to kind of control and own their own data. I'm sorry if I ran on a bit there, but thank you very much.
Thank you, Lily. Great. Okay. Yeah, I understand there's yes, claps all around. Thank you. Yes, I mean this is a lot to tackle in 30 minutes, and I think you've done a brilliant job of giving us a really good overview and
Yeah,
um
sorry.
and no, brilliant. And I think there are going to be a lot of questions, and so I think one of the first ones might be where can they download R-Instat? Where can they find more information online? Do you think you could put that into the chat box?
Yes, yeah,
Okay,
absolutely. Let me put a link into the chat box now. We
great.
do have a new version coming today as well, which has in it all of these menus. So this meant that has in it the most developed version of this menu.
Mhm.
But if I pop that into the chat now, then that's where you can download it, and on there you can find a lot of things such as about the tools as well on the kind of tutorials are kind of what word do I want? Our Moodle site,
That's
which
right.
has a lot of videos and things on using it.
Yeah, and those are really great resources. I've had a look at a few of those. So please check that out, everybody who you want to know more about R-Instat. That's the place to go. So let me open the floor to questions. Please if you go to React, you can raise your virtual hand. I can call on you and you can unmute. Nicholas, please unmute yourself and go ahead. Nicholas, yeah.
Hi everyone, sorry, the video is not. Oh, here we go.
There you
Thanks so
go.
much for the great presentation. I use ClimbHub. I'm in conjugate Seedlink, and we use ClimbHub to do randomization as we do a lot of trial with the Seedlink platform. And we do it a little different. We don't do a best and worst. We do a 1 to 5 score for the package. And can you transform in our Instat like? Not a 1, 2, and 3, but it could be a 1 to 5
Yes.
score. Yeah, great.
Yeah. So it's not set up just for your ABC. Um, I know Roger really stress tested it by trying one with 4 levels. And so yeah, it works with multiple
Cool.
rankings.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else have a question for Lily or the team?
Hello.
Yes, go ahead.
Yes,
Yes.
Yakubu. Nice presentation for Lily. So good job, good team. We appreciate. So we will install the R-Stat. So start to practice. When we met a problem, some challenges, we will contact him. But I think everything is clear. We can start, can try by ourselves. So we will do something on. So I want to ask something. Did we need some script to do it, or we just install the R, and we will observe everything in the menu? So what I want to ask.
Yeah. There doesn't need to be a particular script. You can install it from online, and it like bundles in with it the R version and things, and you can just go from there.
Okay, because I say if with R, I don't know if with R Studio is the same framework or is different. Uh, R Studio with R-Instat, the difference between the two software.
Yes. So R-Instat does have in it a script window. So you can, maybe I'll just quickly share my screen. But you don't need to use the scripts. The script window is just there if you want to do a little bit extra. So you can run in it your own, print hello. You can run in it your own code. Or you can also, if I just open up our last dialogue, I can press onto script and I can then see the R code that's being run and I can modify that if I want. Maybe I don't want this method, for example. So I can, although I could also change that method as I showed in the model options bit here. Under there, I could change it. So if I change that to iterative scaling, return and run to script, now you can see methods change to iterative scaling. But say that there's an option that isn't in there, you can, and if you're happy to, and you're good at R, then that is another option for you. Yes.
So I don't want to, I don't need to code it by myself. Everything in inside.
Everything's all there. Yes. Yeah. You don't need to
Okay.
do any coding yourself, but if you want to, you can. We recommend, like, if you're going for really high level, like if you're going for a lot of coding, then that's the time to move to kind of Positron or RStudio or whichever tool you're using. But for using R-Instat, no, you don't need a script at all.
Okay, thank you. We continue on in an e-box for any challenge.
Okay, thank you. And that's the beauty of R-Instat, actually, that you don't need to be writing your own code. Let's go to the next question from Diouf. You can unmute yourself and ask your question, please.
Thank you, Lily. Thank you for her great presentation. Yeah, I have a small question. I
Yep.
think it's a very useful tools. But for people who are programming, I don't know what is new for them. Maybe for people who don't know how to program, yeah, it can help them. But for programmers, I don't know what is new
Oh, that's
for
a
them.
fun
Yeah.
one. So what's new if you're a programmer? I suppose if you're already using R and you're already kind of very happy using R for your tricot analyses, and you don't necessarily have to move to it. And even if you're like, it's not anything that anyone needs to move to. As I say, I really like R, and I've always been a big R fan. I know a few years ago I would find R-Instat, and even now some days, very useful in its other kind of aspects on it, such as its prepare menu. So if you're already a programmer and you're already comfortable with things, then that's great. And maybe then what you could do is you can suggest other things you'd want to see in it. But I still think that it's not, even if you're very comfortable with R and things, I still find it very useful for things such as like the prepare menu, or sometimes I don't know if you use like ggplot, but it's actually got a very extensive menu when it comes to graphs and tables on like creating your plots. Pardon?
For customizing, like when you use ggplot2,
yes.
Do you think with this tool you can, customize it as the same way you can do with R on RStudio? You have all the options.
Yeah, definitely
Sorry,
not all.
Lily, sorry to interrupt, but I think your volume, something just happened to your mic and you're not.
Oh, am I talking now?
You are, but you're
Maybe
not as loud as you were a couple seconds ago.
Let me try that.
Did you knock
Am
the
I? How
there?
about now?
Yes,
Yeah?
perfect.
Sorry about
Okay,
that.
carry on. Sorry.
Thank you. Well, like if you're happy with, it's not a kind of RStudio or Positron or whichever you're using, because I know Positron's just come out. It's not that versus R-Instat or anything. It's if you're already happy and comfortable, then that's fantastic. With things like ggplot, you can always get more in through coding than you can through a dialogue. But you might find that you want to go through the dialogues to find, okay, what's the best way to do this? What's the best code for this? And in our plot options, there's easy ways where you can then add in different layers to like your box plots. And as I showed with the to script button, I don't know why this is frozen. As I showed with the to script button, you can then see that script and you might go, oh, actually, I really like that bit of the script. With over 10,000, is it over 10,000 now? I think it's closer to 20,000 now, kind of packages on CRAN. It can also be difficult to know the best package to do things. Whereas in here you can kind of find, okay, this is a kind of good package to do this. I'm trying to just throw things on a plot now to then press return and then to script, and then you can see that your plot, you take your code and see that it, I don't know, that you can build it out.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Great.
All right, thanks. We have one more hand raised, but I just wanted quickly, okay, a couple more hands raised, but just quickly going to the chat, Jean-Luc has asked if Lily, if you can provide the links to the reports that you mentioned in your slides.
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
Yep, absolutely. I'll provide them here.
Yeah,
But also there'll
you
be
can do it at the end if it's
great.
easier.
Yes, I'll do that at the end, but absolutely.
Okay. Okay, we've got two hands raised. I don't know who was first. Let's go with Santos Barrera.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you. This is my first time I see this R-Instat tool, and I see very valuable approach. My question is this only for tricot analysis, or it has another capabilities such as, multi-environment try analysis, single try analysis with more genotypes, or is it in the plan to include in this tool?
Yeah, great question. So there's your kind of general, oh, sorry. It was, I was just getting this up because the links are in there. So I'll just send over a link to the PowerPoint. So we have in here, you could do your kind of general analyses. So you could do kind of general modeling, prepare, you could do your general data analysis, but if you have data that follows a specific structure like tricot data, then we've got different menus that are for that structured data. So we have the tricot menu, we have a kind of climatic menu, which is for your data that follows your kind of daily rainfall data, your temperature data. I just clicked on it, and I think my computer's unhappy with me for sharing a screen and for running R-Instat and things at the same time. Sorry.
Maybe let me just come in very quickly on this. So it would be absolutely sensible for a new menu to be designed to be able to facilitate, multi-environment trial analyses in general. That does not yet exist. So a specific menu for multi-environment trials doesn't yet exist, but just like the tricots menu was created, such a menu could be created. The software is designed to have these tailored menus, which then fit in where you have data of a specific format, and it enables you to sort of facilitate specific types of analyses. So I think, although you could do some elements of those analyses in the general, the correct approach would be to design a new menu and to have a menu which facilitates that family of analyses for that type of data. And tricots is very specific, as I was just responding, I think, even for rating data rather than ranking data, I would argue that's different in nature. Tricots is fantastic because it has this very specific ranking process. And that means the analyses that are appropriate are quite well defined. So, yeah.
There are a couple of shiny apps that are including some of the, the approaches for multi-environment try analysis. And I think it will be useful to have some of those apps included in one single tool. I'm just thinking about people that don't know how to code and they might want to see other capabilities. A part of the tricot analysis, the tricot analysis are awesome, but I think if they have previous analysis that want to make decisions on what genotypes they will like to include in the tricot analysis, that will be an opportunity to include in this tool.
Absolutely. I think that would be very desirable.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Santos and David. Let's move on to Jakob, has his hand raised. Go ahead, Jakob.
Thanks, Rachel. Thanks, Lily, for the presentation. I'm really happy about the tool because I think it's kind of this middle ground. We have the standard reports coming out of the Clements platform itself, which is very rich, but not very flexible. Like you get what you get. And then the other thing was like you run your own R script, but then there's nothing in the middle, right? And now we have this tool, so that's great. A lot of people will be able to do their own analysis, like what if we split men and women and we look at them separately, things like this, all these kinds of questions that you could ask from the tricot data. I have one question for you, a little bit like in the background. The tricot data is a bit complicated, and now how you showed it looks very easy. That's great. But maybe you can say a little bit more about how R-Instat actually does that. Like what you see is a table, but what goes on in the background is a slightly more complicated than that. So how is the metadata coming with the data? What is still represented in R-Instat, and what do you do with it? Maybe you can say a little bit about it without making it too technical, but I'm really curious.
You can see David's put on his camera and muted himself, so I'll let him jump in.
Lily, this was mostly your work, but maybe I will say, you know, Jakob, you've mentioned the metadata, that's key. I mean, the whole, what differentiates in some sense what you can do in R-Instat to what you can do in R is the fact that we're using metadata which is associated to the different data frames, so that your, what are now 3 data frames can sort of work as one. You know, in R, you tend to sort of work on a single data frame at a time. Whereas because of the metadata which we associate to the data frames and the links between them, you know, these are actually, it's more like working on the database than on an actual a single table. And that's if you want the real power that's sort of behind what's going on here. The fact that you don't just have 3 separate data frames, you actually have linked data frames with metadata associated between them, which is what enables you to understand how to do specific analyses. And that's sort of the power. And this is what's really exciting in terms of the easy way to do this is to take your data straight from ClimMob. And if you import straight from ClimMob, then we already know the metadata from ClimMob. So you don't need to do the transformation or the definition. That happens automatically because we know what ClimMob data is. And so we're able to do that automatically using the metadata in ClimMob to define the easier data structures in R-Instat. And I do want to just highlight, I'm really glad you appreciate that these are easy ways to think of the data structures, and the data looks much easier once you put it in this format, because this is in some sense critical to what we believe is needed to make the analysis easier. That you need to always know what level your data is at, you know, and the important levels that are highlighted here are the individuals themselves. You know, you have data which is at the sort of the farm level or the individual level. You have data at the plot level, which is really important because that's where you have your different varieties within the farm. And you have data on the different varieties. And broadly within the tricot's context, those 3 levels are really essential to think about. And I think a lot of the complexity comes because you have data at those 3 levels. And it's used differently in different cases. Sorry, Lily, for interrupting.
Thanks, David.
Oh, I'm muted. No, thank you, David. I knew you'd, that's
complex
a you
data, but you keep the richness, but we can still work with it in a fairly easy way. That's really the good thing about it. Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. I see that Lily in the chat has put a link to her presentation. And in her presentation, there are links to all of the reports that she mentioned. So that's in response to Jean-Luc's question about the reports.
Hello?
Yes, go ahead, Yakubu.
Yeah, I installed the R-Instat. I couldn't see tricots in my...
Yes, I was just responding to this. So, well, 2 things. Number one is that we have a new version coming later today, which will be kind of a lot further along. So that new version will be out by midnight. But also, if you can't see it at the moment, if you go under View, then you can click on Tricot menu, and that should then make it visible for you. We just give it as an option to show it or not, because not everyone wants to do tricot analyses, so it kind of declutters that top.
Okay.
No, I am
Is that
still.
understood?
I'm not seeing you seen tricot there. I have a climate menu,
Okay.
procurement menu, experiments, and finish the view. I don't have tricot. I don't
Okay.
know if it's the normal version I install. I don't know.
Yeah, it's probably that it was if you installed our kind of latest stable release, then that was July 2023, so that was pre-tricot. But if you go under looking for a specific release, you can then see
Because I install 0.7.
no, yes, so
0.7.
sorry about this. Yeah, so if you install the most recent one, which is 0.8.7, that will have in it the tricot menu. And then as I say, so we're getting 0.8.8 later today, which so 0.8.7 came out just around the time that we were doing the workshop. Whereas since the workshop, we've made a lot of we got a lot of feedback at the workshop of using the menu.
So
there's been additional changes which will be out on the version released today.
maybe try to share the link of the new version with us so we can install it.
Yes, well, if you go on the website that I shared, and then it's just under releases by version number. Can you see my screen?
Yeah, Yakubu, she's showing on the screen exactly where to click.
I'm not seeing.
Does that have a link, Lily?
I think if I click download, it will just download. Can I copy link address?
You should be able to, yeah.
Yes, I can.
Okay, that's good.
If I put that in the chat.
That's the link. Yakubu's in the chat. If you just click on that, you should get the latest version.
Okay.
Okay. I just want to go on to, we have time for one more question, and I have a hand raised. It's Yakubu Abasi Ikanem. Sorry if I...
Thank you. Thank you.
Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Lily. So I really
Okay.
appreciate the work and what your team is doing.
That's
Hello?
Thank you.
Yes, go ahead. Okay.
Thank you for this platform. So I'm just asking from the tricot data that you have analyzed, so we have please all the traits are qualitative, the ranking traits. So can we also integrate a quantitative trait like yield into this platform and analyze?
That's a good question. Is that something that you can do in? It's not something I've tried out, but if it's something that you could do with in R with the tricot code, then it should be, well, if you could do it in R, you should be allowed to do it in R-Instat. I've not tried that specific case, so I'd love to know how it goes. Or if you and if it doesn't, if you do have any issues with it, then it would be great for you to let us know on GitHub so that we can fix that. But yes, that's an interesting one.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. No, that's exciting.
Okay, thank you very much. There's a question in the chat from Hugo. How flexible would it be to incorporate new functionalities in the future in this platform?
Functionalities in terms of like new analyses, it's very flexible to do that.
Sorry, maybe I can give more details.
Yeah,
Yes,
thank you.
look, the thing is, in Wageningen University, we are working with GBI analysis, genetic progress, and with ranking data. So maybe in the future, we will have some models that we would like that will be used. And then my question was related, how flexible if we have in the future new models, new functions we can incorporate in this platform. How flexible should be done with someone expert or have this flexibility that Shiny has? Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Oh, sorry, David. Did you want to say something?
No,
Go
no,
ahead,
no.
you start.
That was my question. Thank you.
Sure. I was going to say, I mean, I assume pretty flexible. It's open source, and so it's not.
Well, maybe let me add two things. It's open source, so anyone who wants to actually contribute and understand how we're building the current systems and so on can do so. However, we recognize that there's actually quite a large barrier at the moment to designing these dialogues and the custom menus. So that is something where actually we are looking towards making that whole process easier, so that it would be easier for groups like yourselves to maintain their own custom menus. So this is something where, and this is now possible with the advances in AI, to actually have a sort of an AI agent who could help you to maintain and upgrade, a particular tailored menu. That's what we have envisaged in the future, but that's still a bit of development away. At the
Okay,
moment,
perfect.
it's a standard open source project. If you can learn how to contribute, you can do it. Otherwise, we can help. And we have teams in Kenya and Ghana who are trained to help as well.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Hugo. Sounds like you have your work cut out for you at IDEMS. Last question from Bella, please. Go ahead.
Yeah, just to come back to Ikanem's question about if we have other data. Like when I saw the interface and you see that you can really see the data, no? You see the Excel sheet, so to say. It's not the Excel sheet, but even you see the columns. So is it possible to pass in an extra column, to add in another column? Because then it will be easy. Now you have those yields or you have other things that you can add. Is that possible or?
Yes, yep, yep, there's a lot. So it depends what you want that extra column to be. But under prepare, so you could always, right click. Is it under right click? No, it's not. But under prepare, I think data frame, you can add in insert new columns. Or it might be that you want to use, say, calculator, which you can
Then
then
you can pass new data in there as well.
Yeah.
pass new, like merge.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
if you want to insert an extra column with extra data, for example, we have yield data on all the plots.
Yes.
Of course, there's a
Yes.
little bit of a format issue because it's package of 3 per farmer and all that.
Well, no, that's one of the advantage to actually the way that the data is formatted at these 3 levels. It becomes easier to merge at the right level if you have extra data at the farm level, at the variety level, or at the plot level. So yes, you can do that at the plot level. You could do things at the farm level. You can do things at the
That's
variety
great.
level, all staying within what has been built for the tricots functionality. Of course, R-Instat itself is totally general. You can analyze any data with it. And there was also a question about how big you can do. Roger's tested this with rather large data sets and climate data sets. And so it really is, R is the limitation. There's no real additional limitations to the limitations you find running data in R. Behind the scenes, this is just R.
No, that's great. Thanks.
Thanks, Bella. Just if you have any further questions about this, because we're going to have to wrap up, I'm afraid it's been an hour. I've just put Lily's email address into the chat. So that's lily@idems.international. That's correct, isn't it, Lily?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So you can just contact her with any more questions. But yes, I just wanted to say thank you very much to Lily and the team, and thank you, David, for chiming in as well. And thank you for all of your questions. And I will just share my screen one more time. Hopefully I'll get to the correct one this time. Yeah. Just to reiterate our online resources for 1,000 Farms, our website, social media, and the last URL there is the community sites. So please go to that site and sign up to receive emails on any news, and you can find all of the webinars there in video format, plus the question and answers. So thanks very much, everyone, for coming. And thanks again to Lily. And we'll see you in a few weeks for our next webinar.